when you're angry and hate the world, you literally hate the world. You hate the planet, you hate yourself, you hate everybody. And I would just completely annihilate myself through alcohol and subsequently amphetamine use, a culture plagued and run by a male-dominant patriarchal society. So that was already something that greatly affected my imprinting and beliefs.
My next guest, Jon, was a therapist with over 3,500 hours of clinical experience. And then he walked away from it all. Today, he helps people heal in a deeper way through music, ceremonial retreats, and community.
What were the common struggles from the people you helped with? What were the patterns?
I'd say a lot of people are really disconnected from their emotions. That's a really common pattern that I've encountered.
What is somatic practice?
Soma means the body. People will overthink and ruminate and they'll be completely gone in thought by overthinking, but it's not particularly the mind that's the issue. It's just the body doesn't feel safe. We work with the body through different techniques, through physical self-touch, through rhythm and swaying, through vocalization.
I'm gonna do something I haven't done before in podcast. For someone who's feeling really anxious, what's one technique? Are you open to share one somatic meditation technique that they can try?
I can teach just a very, very simple one that's pretty popular, but I don't think it's used enough.
Jon, welcome to Unlayered. I'm super excited to have you joining me in this conversation. Really, really excited, and thanks for accepting my invite as well, Jon. So just to start our conversation, I have to say, first of all, to people who are listening, that Jon is someone who I know for a few months, and he's been a mentor, he's been a guide, and you've helped me get in touch with that child in me. So I have to thank you for that, for helping me understand that child and how that child is trying to protect me. But before all that, I think the audience is very keen to hear your story. So let me ask you, who is Jon?
Well, first I want to say thank you for having me, Pan. It's an honor to be here. And the question of who I am, that's a big question. As with all of us, right? How do we define a human being, a soul in a human body? But if I were to answer that in a technical way, using words, I would say that I am a entrepreneur, I'm a musician, I'm a singer-songwriter, I'm a healing facilitator, and I am someone who has overcome trauma and found connection to my heart and my soul and found a deep, divine, aligned purpose where I am of service to the world and of humanity to help them reconnect with their true selves, with their purpose, and find healing by reconnecting to their heart, to their body, to the planet, to this life, to this beautiful, mysterious experience in this human body on this physical, beautiful, gorgeous planet.
That's beautiful, Jon. I mean, I couldn't agree with you more on what you've explained, because who am I is a huge thing, and sometimes we try to put ourselves in a box or a label or try to define in a way, but sometimes in a practical term there is ways that what you do, and from what I've seen from you is you're someone, as you said, is servicing. You're doing a service, like helping people with their healing journey. You're also an entrepreneur, but I'm curious to hear, like, what's your journey like? If we take a few years back, maybe, I don't know, to your childhood or some of the things, experiences you have gone through to help you become the person you are today. Are you open to share that? What's your journey like?
For sure. Well, as with most healers and people that have found themselves to a position of service, I've found that the majority of them have been through difficult things. They've lived difficult experiences, and that is what ultimately has been the propeller and it has been the impetus towards them pursuing some life of service. So I land perfectly in that category, and I grew up in a really challenging environment that didn't provide the emotional needs to nourish and nurture my potential and to help me mature emotionally with the developmental needs of children. So if we want to say it was an abusive home, yes, it was. And it was really challenging because being a really sensitive kid, you and I in the past have talked about sensitivity and how much that affects us when we're heightened individuals and we can feel things on a deeper level. So that ultimately led me to a lot of down some dark path, let's say, of, you know, the typical delinquency and rebellion in the teenage years, and that ultimately leading towards addictions of multiple kinds, substance and behavioral. And, you know, it gets to a point in someone's journey where they go down one path or they go choose another. And it got to the point where, yeah, the suffering was immense, and no longer wanting or being able to endure. That's what leads you to your knees and in prayer, in a way of seeking something, some help from something greater, someone. And that journey eventually led me to discovering the use of plant medicines. And that is what has been the biggest catalyst in my healing, is using these medicines in ceremonial containers, not through the use of recreation without proper guidance or mentorship, but I'm talking in contained ceremonies with elders and medicine carriers who have been doing this for years and years and years, in safe and intentional spaces.
That's beautiful, John, and I'm so sorry to hear that. And I understand, like, I've seen this pattern of people who are in the service of being healers, therapists, or in psychedelics as well, that they have this backstory. Sometimes, I'm not generalizing it, but I have seen from people I personally met in my life, and you are one person. I wanted to dive a bit deep into that childhood, that household, where you mentioned that it was like you had an abusive environment, which is something not any child should go through. But sometimes it's very unfortunate. And for a child, I know that I'm not an expert in neuroscience, but I know when you're a baby, you have like 1 million of neural networks being formed, developed in that path, and it's very unconscious, and you get to know only at a certain level, and the baby or the child or the teenager doesn't even know. What was that household like? Do you have any siblings, or was it just you? I'm just curious to see, like, know the setting, the foundation of that household.
Yeah. So both my parents were there, and already in that relationship, there was a white male and an indigenous Hispanic woman. And in that, you can already assume some power imbalances, especially in a culture plagued and run by a male dominant patriarchal society. So that was already something that greatly affected my imprinting and beliefs. And I have 2 brothers, and I'm in the middle of them. I have an older brother and a younger brother, and we're all about 1.5 years apart. And I was the middle child, and that always has a role. Whatever birth order you're born into, whether you're the eldest, the youngest, it always contributes so much to our experiences and what happened. And for me, it was kind of like the middle child gets neglected in a way and forgotten. And I've seen that a lot in my work too. When I was a therapist, that when I work with people who are middle child, they just have to blend into the wall, and so to speak, and they're very much ignored. So a lot of my experience had to do with a lot of neglect, and I felt very forgotten. And I feel like neglect is one of the underlooked forms of trauma. Most people think of trauma and they think of some forms of the most like overt abuse, and of course absolutely devastating and traumatic and super impactful to the child and the child who's experiencing that. Neglect is subtle, because it's not, there's no bruises, right, other than the emotional bruises underneath. And this is things that can't be seen with the visible eye, but they can be felt. And especially for a sensitive child, that this type of abuse is completely detrimental to the heart and soul of a young being. So yeah, that is something that I noticed. On top of that, I want to add that there was also a lot of stress, a lot of stress in the home. There was just a lot of like energetic tension and friction. And as a sensitive kid, you absorb it. And this is why people start to, whatever it may be, whether it's like scratching themselves, cutting themselves even, or exploding with anger, all the results they're a part of like the unmet needs of a child. Everything that happens, whether it's like an explosive behavior or frustration, when you see kids that are irritable, they're basically expressing their frustration with their unmet needs. And I feel like that's what that's how I was too. And then when I found substances, it was like like I could breathe. I could finally breathe and not have to feel what I feel as a deeply sensitive individual. So, yeah.
That's sometimes it's very difficult to hear that journey, like what you've gone through, and it's interesting for me to hear that part of the middle child feeling that, and then you hearing that and experiencing from the work you have done as well. Like how did you show up in school? Like what were the challenges you had in school? Because you said you were trying an avenue to release that tension, the stress. Maybe you were irritable. What was the school environment like? Because once you go into that grade 5, not sure about the American school system, but what was that like early school days like for you?
So I've always been very, very clever and witty. However, when I would be in classrooms, I would always space out. It was so difficult for me to pay attention in classrooms, and I would dissociate a lot and spend the majority of class in a zombie-like trance of just, either in complete oblivion of nothingness or thinking about other stuff. So as clever as I was, that type of typical school environment was not helpful for me either. And when I found the work of Dr. 𝗲𝗂𝗃𝗃, and he talks about ADHD and how it's a response to early childhood stress, and that's why children end up tuning out, because it's difficult for them to focus, it becomes difficult to focus because of what they experience in their childhood. They get overwhelmed in a stressful environment, so the brain tunes out as a coping mechanism to survive the overwhelming amount of stress in home. Mm-hmm. So that translated into my education, and it was really difficult for me to focus, and I would always find ways, again, leveraging my intelligence and being able and clever enough to figure out how to do things and either cheat or find answers through other people and have them teach me it really quickly. Then I can learn things super quickly. But I couldn't learn in a school setting where there was 30 kids and one teacher at the podium educating everybody. It was just something that was really hard for me to maintain my focus and keep my focus. But I'd either have to figure it out on my own really quickly by skim reading something, or again, like I said, by cheating or whatever. But school became really hard for me. And if I'm honest, that happened all the way throughout my life. And it wasn't until I actually started doing some deep inner healing and healing that internal stress that was deep inside of me that my focus actually started to improve. Am I perfect? Absolutely not. But I believe that ADHD and those types of adaptations can be healed because it all comes down to some form of stress. And I believe that we can heal that. Maybe not 100%, whatever. I mean, if that even means anything, but I believe it's attainable. So anyways, the school system, really, really difficult for me, but I found my way through it.
I can see that cheeky child trying to get shortcuts and, get your way around school, Jon. But jokes aside, I understand. That's why I asked how difficult it could have been for you as a kid, not keeping attention, and then traditional education system where everyone's treated like the same and not having at least space. I'm not blaming anyone or judging, but it's just there should be a mechanism or a system for understand people with difficult households and see what are the patterns being showcased in school environment, whereas the traditional school is just everyone's the same and you deliver. If you fail, you're a failure, otherwise you go and then win medals or something like that. Going into your teenage years, from there, I know you mentioned about that child has gone into substance abuse and some kind of other addictions. What were your darkest moments in that journey?
Throughout my teenage years, or just later on in
teenage years or later on?
Oh yeah, I'd say when it became habitual and it became escaping and annihilation. You don't even want to be sober because it's uncomfortable to be sober in your own body. And I feel like that's also something that so many people struggle with, is feeling uncomfortable in their body. They can't be in stillness. They can't sit and be with themselves and their thoughts and their body. And that's something that was definitely very challenging for me, is to be able to sit there and be alone with my thoughts and exist. So it led to, just chronic habitual use of annihilating myself and destroying this sacred temple of a body that we have. And I would just completely annihilate myself through alcohol and subsequently amphetamine use. And that's when it started to get a little darker, is when you start to move into those types of substances, because there's a darkness behind them. I believe I don't see any benevolence, even alcohol. I don't see any positive thing to it, other than if you're looking at a positive, that is taking away your pain in the moment. Then I understand it from that lens. However, there's nothing beneficial about it. And yeah, it gets your relationships are based off of that. So the people that you hang out with, everyone, I wouldn't hang out with you if you didn't drink. I wouldn't hang out with anybody if you we have nothing in common. My goal and my mission is to get drunk or high on this thing. So it affects everything. Your whole life is based on these relationships that are based on numbing yourself and escaping from your inner pain and the pain that you carry within yourself. That's a dark place to be by itself. There's no heart-centered, meaningful relationships, because they're all founded on trauma and pain rather than deep connection and intimacy and love and authenticity.
Thanks for sharing that. I really appreciate your vulnerability and sharing this message, because I understand many people might be feeling that, and they are in that space of getting these habits as habitual, unconscious, and they're just constantly trying to find this escape to avoid that inner pain in them without really understanding the root cause. So once you went through that journey, was there a moment that changed something, Jon? Because I know the next part of your life is completely opposite, I would say. I don't want to say opposite or not, but transformational, something different to what you've gone through. What was there a moment? What was the moment where you felt like that the healing is possible, or at least was it an event? Was it a moment? What was that?
It's a really good question. And as I started to think about it, and I don't know if there's one specific, but I can definitely share one that was very transformational and impactful. But it was definitely a very gradual thing that happened, where I sat in a ceremony, and then it was like some gradual shifts started to happen, and then I sit in another one, and more shifts started to happen, and more and more and more. But I will share one of my experiences that I had in one of my mushroom ceremonies. And I was in a forest and under the medicine, and all of a sudden I got presented with this image, there was like a duality, these juxtaposition of two different things. And on one side was these demons and the energy of cocaine and alcohol and sex, and just like this crazy, party, frenetic, dark energy. And again, like I said, there was some demonic entities in there. And then on the other side, I got to experience just bliss and peace and tranquility. And then the demons looked at me and they said, "Which one will you choose?" And they looked at me with this really serious, dark energy, basically telling me that I had a choice at that moment in my life, that I could choose the side of drugs, alcohol, partying, sex, or the path of tranquility and inner peace. So what I did is I turned my body, because I was on my back, and I turned my body towards the way of love and peace and harmony. And I think from that moment forward was a very monumental shift from there on out.
That's beautiful, Jon. I mean, for you to sit there and sit with your body and getting that message and then having that choice, I think that's the key word, right? I know a lot of people sometimes surrender to whatever they are going through in their lives, whether it's trauma or something else. But you said that you had a choice, but for you to realize that choice, you have to be intentional about taking that step. Because that's why I feel sometimes we talk about intuition or certain other things of having that inner knowing to have that choice in your hand. or to receive that choice? What were other things that has helped you? Because like attending a ceremony seems like has worked for you, but I know in our discussions we've talked about other methods of healing for someone listening right now, because there are different ways. It's just one way to be healed. What were key things or helped you in your healing journey?
For me, I would say a couple of them that come to mind is the connection with nature and deepening the connection with this beautiful planet, this earth that gave birth to us, our mother, and really reconnecting with her and spending so much intentional time being in the energy of nature. It's a beautiful, I mean, we forget that that's where we're from. That's where we came from, and we lived amongst the plants and the trees and the animals. We lived and felt the dirt every single day. And there is such a disconnection now, to the point that we destroy it. We destroy our home and we desecrate this beautiful, gorgeous, miraculous gift of a planet. So I didn't care about it. You know, back when I was in my unconscious days, I did not care about the planet at all. I didn't even think about it because I just don't care. When you're angry and hate the world, you literally hate the world. You hate the planet. You hate yourself. You hate everybody. The more intentional amount of time that I began to spend out in nature, the more I started to feel my body calibrate to the frequency of nature, which I find to be very harmonious. And of course, nature has its storms that happen from time to time. But end of the day, you know, it balances out and the storms pass and it comes back to that, the birds chirping and the sun coming out. And that's the peace that we can find within ourselves. And nature was a master teacher. And of course, within nature exists the plants and the plant medicines that I was speaking about that help you heal. So it's all interwoven. I would also say music and self-expression. This is something accessible to everybody, just as nature is. Some people have it, you know, they live in a concrete jungle in the city, but there's still trees you can go sit by in a park, or just go put your feet in the grass, or carry a stone with you, whatever it may be. But self-expression I find to be one of the most powerful ways to heal and express ourselves. Because if we go back to our childhood and look at how many people were really allowed to be their full authentic self, and their parents welcomed everything from both or all sides of the spectrum, from the joy, the pretty, to the happiness, to the darkness and the frustration that little kids feel, and the anger that they want to feel and they want to scream. And so how many parents were able to hold it all, hold the complexity of all of our emotions in our childhood? I find it pretty rare. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but the majority of us didn't have parents with the emotional maturity that were able to contain that and allow us to be our full expressive selves. So we're still these infinitely expressive, and we have all the kinds of emotion. Doesn't matter what kind of gender you identify as. We all are very complex and layered. So to unlayer all these parts of all the conditioned parts of ourselves and come back into our expressive self is truly healing. So if I were to provide two outlets for people that cost no money and don't require deep like powerful psychedelic sessions, is to connect with nature and to connect with your fullest expression, and whatever that may be, whatever artistic outlet. It could even just be journaling. It could be music, dance, whatever excites somebody, to find that way to express themselves, because it's a return back to the self, and trauma creates that disconnection from the self. So in order to return back to the self, we have to find ways that make us feel connected and make us feel more like ourselves. And art and expression is one of those powerful tools that I found helped me a lot.
That is effective, especially when you share in a way, you know, from your own experience that has helped you heal, and that's lived experience. And coming back to the nature, I can definitely share my experience with nature as well. Like, I mean, for me, I it's just doesn't need to that always you have to go find a jungle or a forest, or just go to meditation retreats in a, you know, silent space. For me, it's just about going for a 10-15 minute walk every day. And for me, like I was in a bit of a bad place as well a couple of years ago, with my parents not feeling well. So I just found a way to connect with nature just by getting myself out from the house and just walking around the block. So in the beginning, for someone listening who thinks that I don't have time and, have a busy life, I know, I empathize, not everyone has this time and space to do all that. But sometimes it takes a couple of minutes, 10 minutes a day. And I've been doing that now for close to 2 years, every single day, whether it's summer, winter, whether it's stormy. I just take an umbrella and still walk. Within that, now, I feel that there's, as you said, it's difficult to express it in words, that connection. Sometimes I sit by a tree and I feel that aura, that some type of an energy coming from a tree, that as if it's talking to me. Like it's the energy I share when I come back to sit and do my job. I feel different. And I think, as you rightly said, it's not about expecting that you'll be healed in, one day, or just you go and just get it something immediately. But you just have to let it. Love the space and time and trust in that, whatever the outlet you choose, for you to be connected whenever you are disconnected from yourself. So that was really, I can share from my own experience how magical it is. And it's something I look forward to every day as well, regardless of whether it's sunny or not. I just go and I feel like there's a bunch of friends I've made around those are trees and plants, and it's the energy I share. So one of the things I wanted to ask was music. So I know that you have you're a multi-talented person, helping people, and you have a gift, I would say, in that space. But also now I think you're a musician. You write music. What made you go into music? Did you find that you had a talent in music? Because for someone saying, immediately discard that I'm not good in music, I got bad grades in school, music is not for me. For a kid who believes that they're not, good in music or can't pick up an instrument and learn, what was your experience like, and how it helped you heal writing or producing music?
First, I would say that we're all rhythmic in one way or another. At our core, at the core essence of humanity, I feel that the potential for musical talent exists within all of us. It's more so that the culture that we're raised in, where many people don't grow up dancing, but there's so many other cultures where rhythm and dance is at the foundation of connection, and everyone knows how to dance or be rhythmic because you just grow up with that. I mean, think about it. The heartbeat is rhythm, and it exists within us. So plus, not to mention that the universe is all mathematical, and rhythm is mathematical too. So yeah, I didn't have that environment to nurture my musical talents, but when I hit my teenage years, I remember going to one of my friends' houses, and his older brother's friend was there, and he started playing Ozzy Osbourne's Crazy Train on the guitar. And I remember my mind was blown. I remember looking at him move his fingers and play this sound out of this instrument. And it was the most, and that was back when I was into the grunge, So it was one of the most, it was almost like a psychedelic experience in itself. It's like, oh my God, you can create that with your fingers and this instrument. And then that led me to, nag my parents for so long until I was able to get a guitar. And that was a turning point in my life, where I started to play the guitar, and my older brother had a lot of friends that were musicians, and they would come over, and then we would just play music, and I would watch them and learn from them. Fast forward, and then I started to go to ceremonies, and there would be these multi-instrumentalist musicians that would play healing songs. And healing music, when you're under the medicine, it altered the experience. So a lot of people will take these psychedelics recreationally, and they don't do it with the right types of music or the right type of setting. But again, with these wise elders and musicians that know how to hold the space and hold the container for healing to happen, they would use the right types of songs that would uplift and help move the energy and the pain and the trauma, or bring up emotion or whatever it may be. And that was the most life-changing experience of music I've ever felt in my life, because you see that music is actually healer. It heals. And that took it to the next level for me. And that led me to ultimately play my guitar in ceremonies and started to play and write songs for healing. So it's been an incredible journey to where I'm at now. And I recorded my first single last year, but I have yet to release it because of timing. But I'm also in the studio right now, finishing up my second song that I plan to release this year to finally start to get my music out into the world. It's been a long journey, but yeah, they're all songs to uplift humanity, to open the heart, to bring rhythm and dance back. And that's the energy and the vibe that I'm trying to bring to the planet and with my music.
That's so beautiful, Jon. I can't wait, to be honest, to hear that track. I know I've been asking you this, and where is this track coming in? And I'm really excited to hear that when it's out. I'll be the first listeners for sure. But it's beautiful to hear how you connected that music and found environments with these elders and who have years and years of experience and wisdom about healing. And you made that choice as well. So that you have to give credit for you to choosing that environment and then using that talent of music to be in there as well. So it's beautiful. Now, I know that you have become a therapist. What was that journey like? How did you chose that path after your bringing and teenage years, all the experiences you've gone through? What made you become a therapist?
So when I first started working with the psychedelics, I saw how powerful and how much possibility existed in this medicine and this treatment. And then I heard that psychedelic therapy was starting to be explored as a modality for healing trauma. And I resonated right away. I was like, oh, well, I'm going to do that because I know how powerful these tools can be when they're in the right hands and the right settings. So that was to become a traditional therapist, I didn't care for. I cared about becoming a psychedelic therapist. So I had to go the traditional route, of course. Mm-hmm. And I did, and I ended up doing it, and I ended up becoming a therapist, and I was doing ketamine therapy. And ultimately, as time passed on, I found that it wasn't the right path for me. There's a lot of limitations in the field of psychotherapy. For example, I couldn't work with somebody like you who's in another country. I couldn't work with somebody a couple 100 miles over in another state. So it was something that felt really restrictive to me as far as the full expression of possibility of who I am. I don't feel like I'm defined by any labels or especially restrictions with who I want to work with. So it was a huge path because my background in psychology ended up laying the foundation for my work and a big part of my personal brand, which is understanding the psychology and the physiology of healing. So I'm super grateful for that path, and I have nothing against therapists in general. I think it's one of the most noble and difficult professions, and I have an immense amount of respect for therapists. They save lives on the daily. It's incredible, beautiful, and sacred work, but it just wasn't for me, and that's okay. I've accepted that, but it was an important part of my path, and I hold it close to the chest.
Amazing. It's definitely such a sacred profession, and also such a challenging one, and it's such a service that a therapist or anyone who is in the work of healing others is doing, because I know it creates a lot of stress or challenges for themselves to create that space with people who are going through difficult experiences. I know that you've had more than 3,500 hours in therapy. That's a lot. I wanted to ask you, what were the common struggles or what comes up often from the people you help with? What were the patterns?
I feel like everyone's anxious. Everyone's got like a buzz level of anxiety. No, but you encounter the depression as well and the sadness. But I'd say, going back to what we were talking about earlier about people being able to sit still and disconnected from their body, they're not fully embodied and in themselves and walking through life in a grounded, confident way. Everyone's truly disconnected from who they are. I'd say a lot of people are really disconnected from their emotions. That's a really common pattern that I've encountered as well. Yeah, I'd say those are the first things that come to mind for me.
Amazing. So going a bit deeper into that, John, because I understand one of your specialty is childhood experience. And personally, for me, you've helped me a lot getting in touch with that child, even when the adults, as myself, I can say, doesn't believe that child exists. But I feel most of the things that we feel as an adult is somewhere connected to that child. If you take an example as anxiety, like if you help, I'm sure a lot of people have come your way and you've helped a lot of people who are going through anxiety. How does that like play a part with what they have experienced as a child? Can you share an example or two where, certain event, or I mean we discussed about your experience as well, but how does that connect to childhood? How do you connect the dots?
So we have to understand how important it is to have that close attachment to a parent or parents and community of people. And I feel like a lot of that attachment or anxiety that comes up is because of attachment or some form of, challenge or issues or stressors between the attachment relationship that need to be attached. It's like this like glue that exists between humans, that we need to have this connection. It's one of the most fundamental things, even with all mammals too, to have this experience of deep connection to the parents. When parents are too stressed, as they are in our societies, they're just overworked, they're not able to be present, they carry their trauma that's unprocessed a lot of the time, that is connected to the multi-generations before them of trauma in their lineages and in the human experience in general. It's so obvious to see that there's so much trauma in the world today, and we're suffering immensely. So all that gets passed on, and the child is born into an environment with a lot of stress. And if the parents don't know how to navigate their own emotions that stir up, they might get mad at a baby or a child for crying. They might let them cry. It's too overwhelming. They might leave them. And that starts to brew, and the anxiety starts to form there, because what the kid needs is a parent to be calm, even through the storm. The parent needs to be the anchor that can hold the experience for the child. And ideally, right? But their parents are also faced with impossible challenges to raise children in a super stressful society. So there's no judgment towards parents. It's more just speaking objectively about the childhood experience and what children need to develop in a healthy way. So when a baby cries, this parent's supposed to come. The parent's supposed to come and soothe and back to rhythm, and weaving the rhythm here in. Why is it that we need that rhythmic sway? If the parent's doing it too fast, it's going to distress the child even more. And if it's not fast enough, so it's this intuitive rhythm that we have within ourselves to nurture and soothe the infant. That's going to quell the anxiety in the body and let them develop and know that they're safe with their attachment figures, and they're not going to lose and risk losing one another, because that's the most important thing for a baby, for a toddler, for a kid, is to have that connection of safety to a grounded, emotionally present and available and attuned parent. And when kids have that, you'll notice their confidence is there. They're able to take healthy risks in ways because they're confident and grounded in themselves, and know that they have those attachment figures to support them and have their back.
That's amazing, John. I wanted to ask with that note, because it's so important for the parents to have that knowledge, or at least awareness, about the baby and them. And I know that we live in a world which is divided by countries, and different countries have their own systems. And I would say I come from a third world country. Definitely my parents didn't have that luxury, other than just some kind of a guidance or a checklist from the hospital they get about, okay, these are the things. That's more into the physical side, not psychological. For someone like a parent, or someone expecting their baby, is there a way to get this knowledge, or is there a platform, services, tools that you could recommend to get this knowledge of? I'm just curious.
The first thing that comes to mind is always doing our own inner work. I think that's one of the most important things that parents or anyone can do. And easier said than done, especially if you already have kids or you're going to have one. Look, that's a completely overwhelming and daunting task as it is. But what can be done is the most tiny and basic incremental things. And even that is a gift to the child, because how many parents are doing the deep inner work? I think it's pretty rare. So if someone can start to by, again, we can go back to some of the stuff that we've already talked about, and being in nature, expressing themselves, reconnecting to their body, to their emotions, to rhythm, and learning different basic tools like, breath work. There's somatic practices that people can use to help regulate and soothe the nervous system. It's not hard to look online and look some up. Mentorship, therapists, coaches, somatic practitioners. There's so many avenues that people can pursue. If money is an issue, then start with YouTube. There's an endless amount of resources on YouTube. Look up things like nervous system regulation tools, somatic practices for regulating the nervous system, polyvagal theory. There's so many things one can do. They can reach out to a friend, a trusted friend. So to those with financial hardships, yeah, there's a lot of avenues that they can look into.
I think to summarize, you can find that peace within you before going into external tools or investing in lots of things, because I understand there's stigma around seeking a therapist straight away for someone who hasn't even thought about it. But sometimes it's a simple thing as going to YouTube and searching can start your own healing journey, or that on your foundation for that inner peace, if you're a parent or whoever.
Yeah.
I want to pick up on somatic techniques because it's something you introduced me to, but for my listeners, maybe they're curious about what it is, and I want to get into somatic. What is somatic practice?
So yeah, soma means the body, and a lot of traditional talk therapy, it comes down to talking to try and elicit insight and bring awareness and start to change our behaviors through our thoughts. But the reality is that we're this interconnected, beautiful organism, intricate, complex, really, really complex system that's everything's interconnected with itself. And the body has a keen perception to stimuli and experiences and everything. We process, we absorb and bring in so much information. I believe it's like 80% travels to the brain through the body, and then 20% of the information goes down. So there's so much more information that the body's sending up to the brain, and then the brain then interprets and makes analysis or understanding of the certain situations. So working with the body through somatic based approaches is to work from the bottom up. They call it a bottom up approach because you're not working from cognition down, you're working from the bottom up. So if you can start to bring safety into the body, to start to work to help the body feel safe, then the mind actually follows. It doesn't seem like it would make sense, but that's exactly what happens. So anxiety, people will overthink and ruminate, and they'll be completely gone in thought and by overthinking. But it's not particularly the mind that's the issue. It's just the body doesn't feel safe. And again, tying this back to that early infancy of not having that regulation, the co-regulation of another grounded, centered, emotionally attuned parent can create that anxiety, or it can happen later on too. But a lot of it comes down to the foundation, the very foundation, and people don't understand, and they don't think, oh, I didn't have a traumatic childhood. Well, again, coming back to most households are stressed at a buzz level that people don't even think it may not be obvious that it's traumatic, but it was very stressful. And that can, again, create anxiety in the body. So the somatic approach is to heal the body and establish safety in the body, and that will actually reduce the anxiety and the thoughts and the overthinking that people have. So that's it. We work from the bottom. We work with the body through different techniques, through physical self-touch, through rhythm and swaying, through vocalization, and even dance and things like that can help with the body as well. So that, yeah.
I'm gonna do something I haven't done before in podcast. So because it sounds so fascinating, and I have seen the benefits and of how you guided me on somatic meditations. Because I've been someone who's trying to practice other types of meditations like vipassana for years, but I felt the difference of working from bottom up, especially when you feel anxious. And then I personally felt that I was able to get in touch with certain emotions or feelings, and when you guided me in our sessions about trying to understand, was it like a fire? But my question is, for someone who's feeling really anxious, what's one technique? Are you open to share one somatic meditation technique that they can try?
Sure. Well, I'd first say that it would be important for them to sit and plant their feet on the ground and get grounded. Again, bringing the element of the earth back into this, of the earth supporting us and holding us. That would be step one. I can teach just a very, very simple one that pretty popular, but I don't think it's used enough. It may be known, but it's not implemented enough. And I think that's what we should be doing rather than knowing these techniques. Let's just do them more. So the first step, if you'll join me.
100%.
Okay. Is that, again, feet planted, feeling the earth, feeling the ground, knowing that we're supported by the earth and by the ground, and even bringing your awareness to your seat and knowing that you're supported by your seat. And maybe just taking a few breaths here before I teach you the exercise. Breathing in the nose, out the nose. So first you're going to bring one hand to your chest over the heart space. And then your other hand you're going to bring down to your abdomen. Just right on your stomach, resting on your stomach. And you can start to just bring your awareness to the feelings of your hands being there. Maybe you feel the temperature of your hands, like a warmness or a coolness. Maybe you can put a little bit of pressure or take off a little bit of pressure and just kind of play around with what feels good for you and what feels good in your body.
Bit of pressure helped. It feels a bit warm, especially since we are in winter here.
Yeah. So I just notice that pressure and that the warmth, and then it feels good. We're just going to stay here for just a few seconds, but this is a really simple tool that people have access to everywhere they go, as long as they do have the limbs, their limbs still intact. So what are you noticing, Pan?
I feel a bit of warmness, especially on the chest area. Before I started, I felt a bit of cold and a bit of uneasiness as well, maybe talking and this moment of having this conversation on the throat. But soon as I touched, I felt a bit of warmness from the heart and a bit of ease.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, so it's that simple. And I think it ties back into that touch of the human connection that's so important to our experience as humans, is that. So is if you have your hands, if you're blessed and fortunate enough to have your hands, this is something you can do in moments of distress to help bring you back into the present moment, bring you back into the body.
Thank you for guiding, and I'm sure it will help someone who wants to try it out. So I really appreciate you creating this space and guiding me with this many, many times, and I can personally share how impactful it has been in my own healing journey. Jon, I want to get into your new journey, or what you're trying to build now in your personal brand, because now we've talked about your childhood experience, how you've served many people as a therapist. What's the new brand you're building?
The new brand is called OTORHONGO. OTORHONGO is the merging of two different words. Otorongo from the Quechua jaguar, and then ongo from the Spanish mushroom, and blend that together. Otorongo is the brand. So at the foundation is the jaguar, and the mushrooms coming back to my healing experiences with these beautiful, profound medicines. And it's a personal brand that encompasses all of me and all of my passions, all of my talents, and all the things that I hold dear to my heart. And it includes my music. It includes the retreats that I host. It includes the offering that I'm in the process of building and soon to be releasing. Mm-hmm. And the foundation of it all is healing, helping the world heal, deepen our connections to ourselves, to our spiritual selves, and this path. And connection and community is something that I found incredibly healing as well, is healing through community. And so I'm building a powerful community of heart-centered people like you, me, and anyone out there who has a deep desire to heal their past, so that they can step into what they're meant to do here. For those who believe that there's more to life than working a job that doesn't fulfill them, this brand is about possibility and hope and creativity and trusting the inner creative genius that we all have. And I want to help people reconnect to that. So one of the offers that I'm building and going to be releasing soon is called Heal to Create. Mm-hmm. Heal to Create is all about healing your past so you can create your future. I believe that there's so many things that are going to change the world, and everyone has their own ways of doing that. And I believe that two of them that I'm going to be focusing on now, this brand is going to evolve. I know it is. There's going to be so many more offerings that I create. But this is my main focus right now. And it is for heart-centered, conscious entrepreneurs who want to make an impact in the world, and they want to create a personal brand, or they want to create a business and do something so that they can serve humanity with their heart. But they're held back by wounds from their past. They're held back by these childhood experiences that did not meet their needs. And as a result, maybe they're battling that anxiety that we talked about. Or as a result, they procrastinate. They have the idea and they have the vision, but they don't execute. They're stuck in this paralysis. They're stuck in the freeze state, or they're stuck in the fight or flight because they don't know how to regulate their bodies, or they feel like an imposter. They don't trust themselves. They don't have confidence in who they are and what they can deliver to the world. So this offering is specifically for those people at that stage who they're an aspiring entrepreneur, or at the early stages of entrepreneurship, and they have their business, but it's on the back burner, and they seem to distract themselves and not really commit exactly to what they're meant to do, because it's really difficult for them. Maybe they lack the structure, they lack the discipline, and they lack the emotional awareness, and they lack the tools and the resources that can help bring them to that centered and calm state, so they can start to work on their offers and bring these to life and start making an impact in the world, while also simultaneously making money, which is something that we have to do on this planet. But if we can do it from a heart-centered and whole, authentic place, it's a beautiful thing, because we can then help more people And with more money that we bring in, we can help more people and build and build and build and grow and try to balance this planet back out, because it is in a state of disarray, and we need the light workers now more than ever before. So my invitation to anybody who wants to create something beautiful and meaningful, but they're feeling stuck, I just want them to know that there's possibility and there's hope, and there are ways, and there are mentors, and I don't even care if it's me or someone else, but there's people out there that are willing to help. And if you resonate with my message, and then I would love for people to follow my work and enroll in my program, join my community, and be a part of this mission, because it's more than that. It's a movement, and it's all grounded and rooted in love and in truth and compassion, and that's the essence of the brand, man. That's the essence.
Oh, super exciting, John. It's such a powerful vision, and I'm so grateful to be part of that movement as well. Me being an entrepreneur, I think I wanted to ask a few things before we dive into the last part of our conversation, because especially you picked up entrepreneur, right? And imposter syndrome, I mean, I know we put a label to it, and sometimes it elevates that pressure of feeling that. For some person who's stuck in their job, maybe early stage entrepreneurs, they have an idea and they want to share some message out there on LinkedIn or any other social platform. What does imposter syndrome like for someone who doesn't know what it is, or maybe it's something holding them back, and then they just feels like going back to their usual comfort zone, doing what they like, even they don't feel fulfilled or not have peace with it. They have this idea, but they can't really get action towards it. What does imposter syndrome look like for someone like that?
Yeah, someone who's struggling with imposter syndrome, to me, is someone who doubts themselves. They don't believe in what they can do and in their offer. There's a part of them that does, but there's like, they want to do it so bad, but they feel like a fraud. No matter how many degrees, certifications, all the accolades and achievements that they have, they still feel unworthy at the core. They don't feel like their voice and their talents should be out there. They compare themselves to everyone out there, to the thousands, the millions of people out there. They just drown their voice out because they didn't feel seen. They don't. Maybe, if we could trace it back to childhood, that is probably something that happened. They didn't fully feel seen. They didn't feel encouraged and motivated. So they doubt themselves at their core, even though they have so much talent, wisdom, and creativity that's underneath. So again, it leads to the neglect of the business, and the business gets neglected in a way, maybe how they were neglected themselves. So here it is repeating itself.
I can definitely share my experience on what you shared, how that behavior for me, feeling like an imposter, connected to my childhood, being neglected, and that difficultness of being seen. For me, I've shared that message of how I had a difficult upbringing of being bullied in school and have an impact on my self-worth. And even though I have done all this stuff of building a business, starting from scratch here in a new country, still that voice, that child comes back, especially when I want to share a message and simple as sharing a post on LinkedIn, it comes back. And there were many, many times I've clicked like unpost or deleted hundreds of posts because I feel it's not worth. And that worth is my self-worth. And I've been telling that child, or that child telling me, that your message is not worth going out. Right. So, I mean, thank you for letting me understand that part of that child and helping me in my healing journey as well. But it's a process. It's not something that you achieve and then you hit a go post and it's done with. Like it's something that you need continuous work with. That's why what you're building right now is so impactful, so powerful for anyone who has a gift, who wants to build a business, pursuing financial freedom, and then also servicing more and more people. And if they feel stuck in a phase of where not, they feel freeze or not willing to take action, there's always a way. And there's always an opportunity for them to understand and be aware of why that happens and understand the root causes of it.
Exactly. Yeah. And I was going to say, it's things are always going to show up. So if you're wanting to start a business, this becomes a training grounds for our healing and our growth. As with anything, you enter a new relationship, things are going to trigger you, and it's going to bring something up. And so is the business. It's going to challenge you more than anything, and you're going to be challenged to your core. So if anything, it just becomes a mirror for us and what the wounds and what's asking to be seen by you. What parts of us that maybe the unseen child, what parts of us are showing up when we want to post, or when we're trying to increase our prices, or whatever it may be. Something it's going to bring something up within us. So if anything, it's an opportunity for even more growth. Now, to do it alone, if depending where you're at in your journey, I mean, it's possible, but definitely recommend seeking mentorship, whatever that would look like for anyone, and getting help. So it's always good. It's always good to have another set of eyes and another coach. I mean, even therapists have therapists, like they say. So that's what I would recommend to folks.
That's amazing. Therapists have therapists. I mean, what a profound way to put it out there, because we for that stigma, and to break that stigma around therapists, that even therapists have therapists. Coming back to entrepreneurship, I know that one of the things I felt when I started getting some recognition after going through overcoming the initial doubts of putting myself out there, sharing, and people sharing with me, and likes, comments, and customers, and while I'm building a business, and when I sometimes go out there, people recognize me, but some moments I feel it's dangerous, like a sense of danger through that recognition or success. I feel that it's dangerous. Why do you think that happens for someone?
I think it happens because of the stuff that we're talking about, people not doing the inner work, right? So they start to get the likes and the acknowledgement, but it's all external. It's no one's truly seeing you for who you are when you lay your head down at night. No one's seeing you for your heart. They're seeing you for your achievements and this. So if that feels good for you whenever you're getting that acknowledgement or recognition, it means you're not checking yourself. The ego is getting fueled, right? Because the heart will shine love no matter what. But if you're fueling the ego by getting the accolades and the recognition, then you're not checking yourself. And this is why I work with the plant medicines, because they check you and they humble you more than anything. And again, it's important to have a mentor that's going to call you out too. If you're so it doesn't matter who you're working with. So you either need to have some really deep introspection and looking at yourself and your behaviors and saying like, hey, where am I not out of alignment? Like, what are your values? Do you value this? Like someone that's egoic and brags or feels good when XYZ happens. But what happens when no one shows up? What happens when no one likes your post? I think we should be able to check ourselves whether we get 0 likes or it goes viral. Like who I am as a person is not defined by anything that I produce externally, fame or not.
And thank you for calling me out, being a mentor to me whenever I get into those moments of, not having to understand that distinction between the external success versus the internal metrics or whatever that helps me be grounded, whatever happens externally. And that has helped me build momentum, rhythm, consistency, habits around my business that helps me really show up every day. And sometimes that's the most difficult part, showing up when things don't go right. Some days, some months, I know that you're going so bad, like there's lead conversions are not happening, posts are not getting likes. I feel like this will go viral, but it didn't happen. But it all comes down to your center. And if I am in touch with my center, be grounded, it helps me to even show up even in the most difficult days. And thank you for helping me with me and guiding me. And because you've been my mentor for the last 6-7 months, I would say. So I invite everyone to check out Jon and see if you are feeling stuck and feeling like an imposter, and then you wanted to put your work, your gift to the world, but something is holding you back. I really recommend, getting in touch with Jon, because, you truly have a gift, Jon, to help people out. And I think that is worth recognizing. So to wrap up our conversation, I usually ask one question, but I'll ask a couple from you because you're special. So you only get 2 questions, right? Now, jokes aside, one question I want to ask is, what's one message you wish every listener would hear? One message or one advice for some of our listeners.
In your childhood, you experienced some things or didn't experience some things that created some pain and disconnected you from the truth of who you are. And because of that, it's hard for you to see the beauty in yourself and in others and in the world. However, the journey of healing will unveil and unlayer all of the illusions and all the conditioning and bring forth your true essence. And in that, you will find your mission of service to the world, and you will deepen your connection to yourself, deepen your connection to love and the planet and this universe and this experience. And that the pain is only, it's something that needs to be integrated. And once it's integrated, you'll have infinite access to creativity, endless amounts of love and hope and possibility. And that none of it's your fault. It's just the world that we've been born into. But if you're courageous enough to take the first step to do the inner work, then it will pay dividends for the rest of your life, and it will echo in eternity.
So beautiful, so powerful. Thank you so much for your wisdom, Jon. One last question. What's one thing you've unlayered?
One thing. I've removed a layer of illusion that I wasn't worthy enough to be where I am, creating beautiful music and living a life of service. That was all an illusion, a distortion from my childhood that distorted my perception. So I've removed that layer, and I believe in myself, confident in myself, and in my mission. So the doubt, I would say, has been unlayered.
That's beautiful, Jon. Thank you so much for this conversation. Thank you for taking the time, and thank you for sharing your wisdom with me, guiding me, and also sharing your message out to the world. And thank you so much, Jon. I hope that we'll be able to have more conversations together.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks so much for having me. Thanks for creating this container for beautiful, open, and powerful conversations for all of us to enjoy and learn from and grow from. And thank you as well for everything you've done for me as well.
Appreciate you, Jon.
Likewise.